Well, Inter Miami was able to hold on to a 2-1 lead over DC United after having an incredible first half, as good of a first half as you could possibly want, but a lackluster second half that let DC United creep on them and almost have a comeback against Inter Miami with several chances in the second half. But before we get into this breakdown of this game, make sure you guys like this video down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that little bell notification so you never miss any of our videos. So last week, Inter Miami were losing 2-0 in the first half and then had the miraculous comeback, 4 goals in the second half against Orlando City. And after that point, we thought, okay, maybe this team is figuring it out. Maybe they've shaken off the preseason rust and they're ready to compete and look like MLS champs once again. And in the first half, that's what it looked like. Inter Miami came out rocking and rolling against DC United. DC United looked like a lifeless team in the first half. Inter Miami had 70% of the possession. They had 5 shots, 3 on target. And let's talk about what we saw in that first half. Now, I personally believe, and you guys feel free to let me know down below if you agree or disagree, that Rodrigo De Paul was the best player in this first half on the pitch in general. Rodrigo De Paul has been a player that has looked so much better in 2026 than he looked in 2025. He's looked more confident. He's looked like he was more in control. He's been pinging the ball around. He's been playing better defensively. And if we looked at the heat map of all the places he had been during this game, I mean, it would look crazy. The whole thing, the whole field would probably be filled out. I mean, he has been everywhere, and I thought he was the best player on the field in the first half. And I don't think it was relatively close just because of everything he had been doing. Now, one other thing too that I noticed in this game was the formation was kind of fluid. Normally, we would see Segovia play out wide, Silvetti play out wide, and Messi underneath Berterame. But in this game, we saw Messi play out wide. And we really hadn't seen that in the Javier Mascherano era. We've only seen him play underneath Suarez or Berterame, whoever's playing up top. But out wide, I was very interested to see how that would work because Messi doesn't really have that pace that he once had. How would this work? And it worked pretty well. First of all, De Paul scored in the 17th minute. So let's get to that. He had a beautiful goal. I was very curious if he was going to be able to score this because it wasn't the best angle, and De Paul's not known for his goal scoring ability, which we'll talk about in a little bit in the second half. But he was able to put Inter Miami on the score sheet first in this game, which is their first half goal of the entire season. This is their 3rd game. So Inter Miami scores their first goal. And what do we always say? Inter Miami never score 1. They scored 2. They scored 3. They score 4. They score 5. They never just score 1 goal. It's either they score none or they score multiple. That's just how it is. That's just how Inter Miami is. So they get their first one. They go up 1-0 over DC United in the first half. And then in the 27th minute, Messi had a beautiful chip after a beautiful assist from Matteo Silvetti. I mean, he had an incredible chip to put them up 2-0 in the 27th minute. And then at that point, you're thinking, all right, this game is probably going to get out of hand. Inter Miami has now scored 6 goals in the last 2 halves going back to last game. They are absolutely in sync. They look incredible at this point. And they looked good in the rest of the first half, too. They didn't really have a lot of other key chances. But in the first half, Inter Miami looked very good. Like, I would be hard-pressed to find a player who looked bad in the first half. The only one that you could argue is Facundo Mora. He did have some bad giveaways in the first half and maybe left a little bit to be desired. But everyone else I thought was either okay or good. Even Noah Allen looked good in the first half. And Noah Allen's a guy that I've been very skeptical of because I don't know what he really gives you in the attack. And his he's okay defensively, but I don't really rate him that much at left back. But even he was okay. Yannick Bright was good. I mean, he had this one play against Pirani on DC United. Pirani had a golden opportunity inside the box, and he just held the ball too long, and Yannick Bright just took the ball away from him. I don't know what Pirani was thinking, but I mean, literally every player was pretty good. Segovia looked really good too. Segovia, sneaky, 4 goals and 4 goal contributions in 2026. He's having a sneaky good year. Not enough people are talking about how good Segovia is playing. On the other side, I thought DC United looked like I mentioned earlier. They looked lifeless. They looked like they didn't really have anything going on. They looked like they didn't even want to be there. And I brought this up on my stream. To be fair, this is a home game that they're playing an hour away. So they're probably maybe a little pissed. And there's obviously going to be more Inter Miami fans in the stands because they're going to see Messi. That's why they moved it to a bigger venue. So DC United players look like they just didn't want to be there. They did. They looked lifeless in the first half. The energy just wasn't there. And Miami was just running all over them in the first half. Like I said, it was 70% to 30% possession, 350 passes for Inter Miami, 139 for DC United. They had 200 more passes in the first half. I mean, they just look lifeless. So first half ends, it's 2-0. It looks like Inter Miami is on the path to another beatdown against an opponent, and they look like they're rocking and rolling heading into the stretch of MLS. Right, they got CONCACAF Champions Cup, which we'll talk about a little bit, heading up this upcoming week, and it looks like they're going to get this early lead. They're going to be able to make some substitutions. They're going to get some guys some rest. They're going to be ready for Wednesday, and the second half happens. Right, so the second half happens, and Inter Miami is playing the most conservative ball you could possibly play. They're essentially just playing keep away and just running out the clock. And my mentality about this, and I'm going to have some very harsh words for Javier Mascherano because I think he was disappointing in this game after the comments he made last week about their performance. But Javier Mascherano in this game changed the game plan that worked. The method should be that if what you're doing works in a game, you keep doing it. You don't change it. You keep doing what works. You only change things when it doesn't work because then you're trying to figure something out that does work. So a team that does change what they're doing when everything is working makes no sense to me whatsoever. And Javier Mascherano and any MLS coach or any coach in the world that does that is an idiot. And it normally bites you in the butt when you do this, right? Because then you're trying to scramble and get back to playing the way you were or readjusting. It's just a headache. It makes no sense. They should have kept their foot on the gas because what they were doing was putting DC United in a very, very bad spot. But in the second half, it was, kind of keep away ball, nothing crazy, lackluster. DC United looked kind of bad still. But then they made a couple substitutions, and the one that they made that made a difference was their DP, Luis Moutinho. And Moutinho was the record-breaking signing, $8 million, came in the 61st minute. And I think he really started to make a difference because of his pace and he had a couple threatening run of plays in this game. He almost had a bicycle kick, which was really impressive. And they got Pirani the hell out of there. He's terrible. Getting him out from Moutinho was a huge addition. So I think anybody would have been addition over Pirani, addition by subtraction, just getting him off the pitch because he was terrible. But Moutinho came in and he started to give them some fits, talking about Inter Miami. So Inter Miami is kind of on their heels. There's a couple chances. DC United was threatening, and then in the 75th minute, they finally scored. Ty Brebo pulls one back, and they cut the deficit to 1 goal. And Inter Miami, we're kind of scrambling at this point. Now, I want to say this too, because I want to mention about Javier Mascherano making a bad decision. He should have went up 3-0 because they definitely could have. And then he should have started taking the vets out. But the only substitution he made was in the 71st minute when he took out Matteo Salvetti, who's the youngest guy on the pitch. He took out the youngest guy on the field for Inter Miami instead of one of the vets who probably needs the rest for Wednesday's game. So he took out Matteo Salvetti. He brought on Tadio Allende in the 71st minute. And, nothing really happened, honestly. Just kind of the same. Not really the same, but same in the second half of not much creativity, not much going on. So anyway, Ty Brebo scores 75th minute, and then they were just threatening. They were threatening. They had chance after chance. Inter Miami looked like they were going to concede another goal and at least tie this game up and drop from 3 points to 1 point. And it really should never went like this because of how well they were playing, but they just were so lackluster in the first half. I would say that Inter Miami's second half was worse than how good their first half was. If you're saying, was it a better first half or a worse second half? It was a worse second half to me than a better first half for Inter Miami. But they didn't make another substitution till Lujan came in, I think in the 80th minute or 88th minute for Talasco Segovia. So they take out the two youngest guys on the pitch and bring on they take off the two youngest guys instead of taking off some of these old guys. It makes no sense by Javier Mascherano. Just question marks galore for this man. But They were able to hold on to this lead and win this game. I have to mention DePaul. DePaul, like I mentioned, he was the best player in the first half. I think he was the best player in this game, by the way. Messi's up there too. It's a tie. Messi and Sego and DePaul were probably the co-best players of this game. They were both very good in this match. But DePaul had this assist. I want to say Bertarame, this pass from Bertarame on a platter to DePaul, and he was 2 feet away from goal, and he sent it 40 feet in the air. I mean, we're talking Chris Wondolowski whiff here in the 2014 against Belgium. I mean, absolute insane whiff by DePaul that you just want to scrub from your memory. But that was the most horrific thing I saw all night for Inter Miami. Now, Mora, I have to mention this about Mora. Mora did have a bad game. He probably was the worst player for Inter Miami. On the goal by Ty Baribo, he was not marking him whatsoever. It was Hopkins, I think, that actually shot it. Hopkins shot the ball for DC United. It was deflected or saved by Dane St. Clair. And then Ty Baribo scored off the rebound, and Facundo Mora got caught ball watching. He was 7-8 feet away from Ty Baribo. He was the closest guy. He just was not marking his man. So that was another bad play of the night. I had to mention that. He was probably the worst player for Inter Miami tonight. But overall, they're able to win, which is tough. A game, a win is a win, right? 3 points is 3 points. No matter if you win 5-0 or if you win 3-2 or whatever. 3 points is 3 points. Inter Miami gets 3 points on the road, and they're having to play on the road for like 4 weeks, 6 weeks in total, but like 3 or 4 more weeks because their stadium. So they're able to have 6 points after their 3 game road stretch so far. They play Nashville SC on Wednesday, which is going to be a tough game. Javier Mascherano should have been more conscientious about getting some of these guys rested because they're going to have to play a game in 4 days. So that's a little disappointing if you're an Inter Miami fan. We'll see what happens and how they look against Nashville SC, who is a tough opponent and a better team this year. But we will see. I'm curious to know what you guys think about this game. Were you content? Were you disappointed with Inter Miami's performance? How do you feel about DC United? Let me know down below. And if you guys enjoy this video, make sure you like it down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And hit that little bell notification so you never miss any of our videos. Until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.